There's been a lot of talk in the news lately about right whales, their importance to coastal ecosystems, the issues surrounding them, and what people can do to help. So I thought I could answer some questions, explain a little bit about these amazing creatures, and what you guys can do to help protect these oceanic mammals. First of all, I wanted to cover some fun facts about these animals. They are incredible mammals. For example, they travel more than 1,000 miles in 1 year. That's about the distance from Missouri to New York, if you can imagine that. They do this because they have to get from cold northern waters down to the southern coast of Georgia for their breeding and nurturing grounds. If you're like me, you probably once wondered, why are they called right whales? And the reason for this is because they were named that when whaling was extremely popular in the 1800s. They were named right whales because they were the right whale to kill. They found that they were the right whale because their blubber was used to make wonderful lanterns and candles that lasted a long time. And also, once they were harpooned, they floated to the surface, which made it incredibly easy to get their prize ashore. Um, my last fact is not as fun, but is very important, and that is that there's only around 350 of these right whales left today. And this is not a large number, especially when you consider that most of the right whales that are born do not make it to adulthood. On that note, there are many things that can harm right whales, but first, before we get into that, I wanted to get into their importance. Like I already mentioned, they breed on Georgia's southeastern coast, and they do this in late winter to early spring. That's when you'll see them around here. They will stay here for a couple months, and then they'll go back up to the northern waters of Canada until they're ready to breed again. They are also a keystone species in this coastal ecosystem because they do spend so much time here. They're very important to coastal food chains and the ecosystem as a whole. Unfortunately, there are issues surrounding these whales, which is what you've probably heard in the news. I'm just going to cover a couple of these issues, and then we can get into how you can protect them. So first of all, something that can hurt right whales is boating accidents and hits. And basically, this is what happens when a boat will ram into a right whale, usually causing damage or death, and most likely results in injuries. And these injuries can become infected and then eventually lead to death. Boating accidents are actually the leading cause for death in right whales. It's extremely sad, and there are things being done specifically in the boating accident category. Right whales can also be harmed by fishing line entanglement and lobster pot entanglement. So fishing line entanglement is what happens when fishing line out in the water can get caught around whales' fins, make it hard to maneuver, find food, things like that. Lobster pots are a little bit different. They're hung from buoys, and right whales will usually swim in amongst the buoys and the lines and get them wrapped around their tails and then try and trail them with them, making it very hard to maneuver and sometimes causing injuries, which can get infected and then lead to death. Fortunately, lobster pots are not all over the place. They're usually more towards the north, and things are being done to try and limit the amount of whales that are swimming through lobster pots to get to their breeding grounds. And lastly, another thing that can hurt right whales is trawling and dredging. These are done usually by large boats. Trawling is when fishing companies or shrimping companies will drag large nets across the seafloor, and sometimes right whales will be caught in the middle of them. They won't be able to come up and breathe and become suffocated or injured. Dredging is what happens when a large boat will clear out a passageway in the sand, and similarly to trawling, they can get stuck or hit by these boats, and similarly, they will get very injured. Trawling and dredging is something that's also being looked into right now about how you can limit the right whales that are being hit. And right now, the idea is to stop this from happening in the certain months that right whales will be in the Georgia coast. Lastly, how you guys can help right whales. There are a couple things you can do. If you're a boater, you can obey boating laws. There are multiple laws that indicate what kind of speed you can have in coastal waters, especially during the right whale season. You can also sign petitions and letters on their protection. Right now, there's actually one going to our president to bring about change specifically for those boating laws to protect these whales. And lastly, you can obey fishing laws. There's a lot of laws out there about what kind of line you can and can't use. Again, speed, where you can fish, and where it's not safe to. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I wish you the best of luck in protecting right whales.